I am putting it to the Minister that you either want to respect and implement the UNCRPD, and that is to provide the personal assistance hours that people really need, not home help hours or a couple of hours here and there. And the only way that can be done is inferring those rights to the HSE, to say those rights have to be given to citizens with disability. It wasn't until I actually met Dermot Walsh, he was a constituent of mine in Crumlin and Walkinstown, that I really realised what those personal assistant hours actually meant to somebody. Dermot was very active in his community. He was a disability advocate full-time with Dublin Bus. His personal assistant used to get him into work in the mornings, used to drive him in, bring him to conferences, bring him overseas for conferences, work on, he was able to access the car, his personal assistant drove the car, everything, and every minute of his day he had that support, and he lived very, very independent. And that's what I'm talking about when I think about independent living. That's what we're talking about, not home help hours, not 1 hour, a couple of hours a day. And I think the Disability Federation of Ireland did a briefing back in last year, and they made those particular points, and it's a contradiction completely with what the Minister came in here and said. They are saying quite clearly that only 0.3% of all people with disabilities get a personal assistance service. The number of people who received the PA service and home support service for 2017, and they gave the details of those figures. The point that Joan O'Connor, who wrote the briefing, said, notwithstanding the definitional issues, conflation of PA and home support data, the above figures show that overall there has been a drop of over 25% in the numbers in receipt of personal assistance and home supports combined between 2010 and 2017. In terms of the PA service, majority of people receive between 1 and 5 hours, that's 957, and between 6 and 10 hours, 538, and there is only a target of 256 people to receive between 21 and 40 hours. Only 5% of the HSE disability budget went on personal assistance and home support services. I want to make the point about Article 19 of the UNCRPD, specifically mentions personal assistance under Section B, where it states persons with disabilities have access to a range of in-home, residential and other community support services, including personal assistance. And what this article means is that a person with a disability has the right to live where they want, the right to be fully included in the community. States must provide the supports needed to achieve these outcomes, including personal assistance, and all mainstream community services should be available to people with disabilities. And the reality is, Minister, is that there is no specific reference that was made to disabled people and independent living in Budget 2020. Budget 2020 failed to bring a comprehensive, coherent approach to resourcing the real inclusion of disabled people in Ireland, despite commitments made by government to disability-proof Budget 2020. So I want to make reference to the email that Senator John Dolan sent us all today, and I think it was very important to put in the record of the Dáil that, from his point of view, he's witnessed for the past 25 years the constant erosion of the practical life-enhancing tool of a personal assistance service since it burst onto the political agenda in the early 90s under the leadership of Martin Naughton and people like Dermot Walsh, Florence Dougal and Mairead Menton. And I know it's been carried on the baton by the likes of Shelley, James, from the Independent Living Movement Ireland.